up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to our Dead Folk launch live.
You were sitting on that bit for a while.
Wonderful.
That's a yeah.
I even accidentally leaned into a voice, which wasn't even intentional. I was going to just do a regular voice.
Your alter ego.
Angel, where'd you go?
Flipped out like a little bit anyway. But yeah, welcome to our big celebration for the Dead Folk launch day, which is today. The sequel to Undead Folk by Katherine Silva. This is probably, when Undead Folk came out, I'm going to probably do that multiple times. I don't mean to. Undead Folk came out. Nobody knew there was going to be another one, right? So I remember seeing when you first started posting about it, there was, I think people seemed to be genuinely excited about the prospect of a sequel to Undead because it was very, very, very well received. Spoiler alert, was a big fan of it. It's my favorite thing that you've written. And I've read almost, I think the only thing I haven't read is the Monster series, but I've read everything else. And so it was like, it just kind of like everybody was talking about it. Everybody was really excited about it. So of course we wanted to. And full disclosure, I have no idea what happened. Kat and I had this phenomenal conversation about Undead Folk, and I do not have the video anymore. And so I felt terrible. It made me I felt so bad. And so one of the things that Steve and I discussed, we really wanted to do, because we love you and we want to promote you anyway, but was kind of making, we wanted to make that up and get a chance to talk about this sequel. And so here we are having this live stream to discuss all things Undead and Dead, as it were.
Listen, we opened the summer with Jaws, and now we're going to close out the summer with your book. So, it's just couldn't write it better.
That's right.
No, and that was a phenomenal live show. If anyone has not watched the Jaws franchise live show, that was so much fun.
Yes, that has one of my favorite clips that I've ever shared to promote, where we are all in tears laughing. We just completely about when she goes to the it's when we were talking about
we're dancing, right?
The dancing.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
It's so good.
It was hilarious. So yes, if you haven't seen that, go back and watch it. It's very funny. But yeah, we'll kind of start with first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
How are we feeling on launch day? I know you had to work.
Yeah, I was like, I always get kind of like this weird medium of I'm amped on launch day, and at the same time, I'm like, I purposefully schedule launch days on days that I have to work, because otherwise I will be online all the time.
Yeah.
And that's not good for the psyche. So I typically do my launch days on work days, and then I have the day after to chill out.
Okay.
And today was a very hectic work day. So yeah. I did not have as much leeway to just kind of like dip in and check on things as much as I would have liked, but otherwise great sales today.
Nice.
A lot of really nice people sharing things and saying congratulations, and just wonderful heart melting stuff. So really, really sweet.
Good.
Such a good community. I just can't.
I know.
Like, how did I get so lucky?
Aw, we're the lucky ones. We feel that way. Like I was like, because you and I, we had mutuals before we became friends or did content together. But I really I'm speaking for just myself. I'm sure Steve doesn't hate you, but for me personally, I always love talking to you, even when we chat. That's right. Just saying. I always enjoyed talking to you. I even, when we just chit chat, off camera, and I really enjoyed getting to know your work and reading your work. And I just I have to say, because we're gonna kind of go in order. We're gonna talk about Undead first, and then we'll jump into Dead Folk in just a little bit. But I and this is some of this is going to be a repeat because Kat and I have technically already had this conversation. But when I'm horror in general is not always something to that works on me emotionally, as far as like getting me to these like really just devastating places emotionally. Very few things have accomplished that. But there's like this part when it's like when you get the big reveal plot points for Undead Folk, where I was just like, because I think I messaged you and I said something to the effect of like, I don't know, remember what I said, but I remember your response. I'll never forget it. Your response was, I know, I'm diabolical. That's what you said. Which is true, because it just like could not have seen where that book was going to go and where it was going to take me emotionally and make me feel, and for these to be such short reads and packed so much emotion as a reader. It's been crazy getting to see those pieces, because I think, you dive into grief horror in general, like in your other series. But this was just, for some reason, like this one just hit me a lot harder. And it's so short. Like that's I think that's crazy. But do you have copies in front of you? The books, Kat?
Technically, I do, but
okay.
Spoiler, not spoiler. There's a specially thing that I will be showing off.
That's right. Okay.
Mysterious box.
That's right.
Very cool. Well, let's do a quick little. We got some
let's do comments real quick.
Some love.
What's up, Rick? Thanks for stopping by. Yeah. Hey, Rob.
Congrats. And we got Arwen saying congrats.
Oh, hi.
Hey, Arwen. My fellow Mainer.
Loving the book.
Showing some love. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So we'll talk about, before I get too scattered, because I'm eager to talk about the new one. But I do want to catch up and talk about Undead first. So,
cool. So before you jump in, I do just want to be like, okay, this is my wine that I got, which has a foxtail on it. And this is what I'm going to be drinking for my launch day. And I don't usually do this kind of thing. I don't reward myself with any kind of anything on launch days.
Aww.
I'm doing it this time because this is book number 14.
Jeez.
Which seems insane.
That
and
seem insane. This
is the most pre-ordered book so far.
That's a lot to celebrate.
Catalog. And certainly the most like asked for sequel as well. And I've had a lot of sequels that have just kind of like,
oh yeah.
So this one is very special. So I bought myself fox wine, and
we get to be a part of it. Thanks for that. That's awesome. I feel like you should always celebrate stuff, but I get that. I get that other side of it too. Yeah, that's great though. I knew people were excited about this. I mean, like I mentioned before, I mean, Undead was so well received, and really just I love, yeah. And I think, because I feel like multiple people, I wasn't the only one, multiple people came out on like Twitter and stuff and posted that it was their favorite thing that you had written so far. And it was just, and I just saw you just posted, maybe, was it yesterday, Kat, about how you had just like all of the ebook sales, or
yep.
Was it ebook sales? Yeah, like
ebook sales on Undead Folk. We passed 450 copies, which is ridiculous.
That's crazy.
Never had a book like we've definitely far past anything that I have published of my books.
Yeah,
I've never sold this many of anything else.
Deserves a crate of fox wine.
Yeah. I really am just like blown away by how this has taken off.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's crazy. Like you've put in, for this to be 14 books. That's insane. Like you put in the time and energy and passion and love, and yeah, I can only imagine. Like that's crazy number wise. That's insane. But I mean, obviously, very well deserved. It's a phenomenal book. For people who might be watching who are not super familiar, so Undead. I'm so self-conscious about the way I say the word folk. I'm like, is that I keep
Well,
I feel like
it's partially my fault for making them sound too much alike.
no,
And I did
but
that.
it's perfect at the
with-
same time. Like,
I did that
Mhm.
intentionally. And
yeah,
and then I'm like, nah, god damn it. I made it
no,
impossible for people to tell the difference between which one is which. And
no. I mean, I do in my head, but when I say it, I'm worried I'm saying it wrong. But yeah, so in Undead, um, we follow a protagonist named Janet in sort of this dystopian world where she uses magic to put spirit or spirits into animals. And so in this, like, and you spend the first maybe like half of the book, you're not really sure what the connection is. There's conversations because there's a fox on the cover. The fox is the focal point for both. And but there's these conversations and these like subtle like notions and inner monologue type things, and you're like, what is happening? Like, what is this really about? And ultimately, because we talked about this before, we are gonna spoil Undead Folk, but not we won't do spoilers for the new book, obviously. But you're going through this journey of her, and you get, okay, she's like out for revenge, and then you learn all of this story about she came where she came from, which she came from a home with two dads. One of them ended up with dementia and ended up in a hospice care center when the world started going to shit, basically, the owner of this place essentially euthanized the patients that were there. And she is out for revenge. And it gives this really like, first of all, I think that you write post-apocalyptic stuff super, super well. I think that's like, I just feel, and I know I've said this to you before, but I feel like you're just very good at capturing those like nuanced things about existing in a world that's not like it was. And to add this emotional side of it, there's the magical component. There's, I mean, like revenge, there's violence, there's like, it's just such a great book. And I think like, when you get to the end of it, in the best way possible, you're like, I definitely need more of this. Like I need more, and then enter the sequel where you get not just a little more, but a lot more, a lot more information. When you finished writing Undead Folk, did you know you were going to do a sequel?
no. Because when I wrote the first one, I was, for lack of a better term, having economic hardship and really needed to make some money.
Yeah.
And I did that because like I had AuthorCon coming up, and I knew that if I made, if I wrote a short book for AuthorCon and had it published as a debut, for AuthorCon, that was likely to be a good thing. And then I came up with the idea of doing, hardcovers for it and wanted to make it an AuthorCon exclusive. And then it like took off. And at that point, the bane of a writer's existence when it comes to novellas and novelettes is that sooner or later, you're always going to get a reviewer saying, I wish it was longer, no matter what, no matter what. Even if you've tried to button it up as neatly and as tightly as you can, or just, you want to give the essence of this, like this person is still broken, but they feel marginally better, which is what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
I had enough people leaving reviews saying that they wished it was longer. And I had enough people leaving reviews saying that they wanted more, that I felt like I could write a sequel. And then I did a podcast with my friend Lucas, Elsie Marino, for those of you who don't know.
Yep.
And I basically decided in that podcast that I was going to write a sequel.
Yeah.
And then did.
Yeah.
And then with the intention of having it just be a sequel, there it is, it's done.
Yeah.
And I'm really bad at like committing to shit, clearly. So I didn't realize that it would, like, you know, I'm writing the sequel and I get to the end and I'm like, son of a bitch, like, God damn it.
Yeah.
And but I knew the strategy I was going to have to take when I wrote this one was going to have to be different than the first one.
Yeah.
I knew it needed to be more brutal, and I knew it needed to satisfy the revenge part of it, needed to satisfy readers on a better level than the first one. So that was where I went into it with those thoughts.
Yeah.
So in the second one, I mean, surely, so you're building out the scope of the story. Did you have some of the ideas of the world, like as you were writing the first one, where did a lot of things carry over where you're like, this is a lot of great detail, but maybe I'm not going to put it in the book, but this is just more like head canon? Did a lot of things kind of carry over from like the deleted section, or is this a lot of just fresh ideas as you were percolating a second idea?
Yeah, there was nothing carried over. I was really, what happened was I had a lot of characters that I didn't that I kind of brought into the first one that I didn't that I knew I could do more with and
We didn't get a lot of time with. Yeah.
Revisit. And then also the like wanting to expand the world a little bit more, but not too much, so that we meet more characters in this world, but it still feels like we're kind of looking at a microscope.
Mm-hmm.
And but the whole feel of this one was different from the get-go because I knew that I wanted it to have a Western feel more than the first one. And it definitely has more of a Western feel than the first one.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
For a revenge story too.
The whole lawless aspect of this place. And people are just kind of like, you know, whatever goes. That was definitely something I took into it. And then of course the obvious inspiration from John Wick, which I had watched in between writing 1 and 2. I had not seen any of them previously, and I immediately did that. So I wanted to impart my feelings for that franchise.
Yeah. No, I think it's good. Yeah, I messaged you periodically when I was reading Dead Folk as well, and because I finished reading it today. I mean, you know, and because I was perfectly fine with it as far as like the original, like I was like, okay, I've got this like very, you know, specific thing that you gave me with Undead, and I'm like, okay, where's this going to go, right? But I was kind of glad that you added to this, because it really, like, I was already really you know, like feeling things right in the first one. And I don't think this is spoilery. You know, you give us an opportunity to get memories and scenes with her and her dad and her father, that we don't have anything like to this level in Undead Folk. And so that was like, I messaged you and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, why are you doing this right now? And you said, you always say the funniest stuff when I message you. I'm in mid reading. You're like, oh, just you wait. And so I love the addition of that, because there, even though I wouldn't say I felt like, oh, I'm really missing something here, because I honestly thought that that Undead Folk was perfect. Like, I didn't have any like feelings of like it wasn't complete or anything. I never had those feelings, but it kind of gave me things I didn't realize I was missing, if that makes sense, because it went so well together as far as being able to expand on the story. And you said, you know, you mentioned talking about building out the world to give more, but still keeping it, you know, pretty small as far as the focus goes. And I think you nailed that. This feels like we're getting a much bigger picture, but still on a super small scale. And I think that part, I definitely think you nailed, because it feels isolated almost. Like, you almost would think like this is only happening in this one place, but it's so bad that that's bad enough. Like, it's fine. Like, you know what I mean? And I think that, so I think that in that regard, I think you nailed that perfectly.
Oh, thank you. There was definitely this feeling going into this where, I wanted to make sure that, you know, we had eyes on our main character, and that was basically it. So every person she interacts with, everything she does, we're just very hyper focused on her, versus, you know, a bigger plot point of what's going on in the world at large. Yeah. And a few reviews have picked up on that, where they were just very like, wow, this is really Janet focused, whereas the first one was very, you know, playing off of Janet and Amos's relationship. And so I did want to kind of, you know, see, okay, we've played with these two, let's play with, you know, Janet and and Hugh maybe a little bit more in this one as well, because we don't get a ton of him in the first one,
right?
And then, you know, bring in some other fun dastardly characters as well. Which it does have a video game-esque feel to it a little bit. And
very questy. Yes.
I do love video games, so that was couldn't help it.
No. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it works. It's almost like levels. Like you're playing at, you know, levels.
Levels.
You know. Yeah.
It's a good structure to storytelling, you know. I mean, it was just so wild to me that we don't get a lot of great video game adaptations, but, you know, we can evoke the video game feeling, you know.
Yeah. We get some good ones.
There's some good ones. There's you know, I know you do a whole series on it, but Rob loving the John Wick.
Oh yeah. Hey, Elsie, what's up? Yeah. Yeah, I definitely got the video game energy. I had a similar thought when I was reading through at a certain point, and I was just kind of like, yeah, like I've been in these feelings before when I've had a controller in my hand, or, you know, like it was very and I'm a gamer too, so I really loved that. When you're creating these villains in this dystopian world, like, where, like, were they based on, like, the different bad people, right? Like, when you like, are they based off of anything in particular? Like, was their inspiration drawn from something to kind of create these like personalities or characteristics, you know?
You know, months from now, I probably will say yes to that. Okay. But honestly, our big bad is not really based off of anybody in particular.
Okay.
Just a lot of bad guys in film, just as a large scope so far.
Yes.
Although I did rewatch Road to Perdition recently enough that a bit of Daniel Craig has fallen in to this character.
Love it.
I would say mostly in look right now.
Yeah.
But I think that probably Daniel Craig is the closest thing I can say is inspiration for Steel. And I'm pretty sure another character is just based off of the lead singer from Fleetwood Mac, because Fleetwood Mac is something that I listened to a lot while working on this book series. So
yeah.
And then I honestly, they just like, this shit just pops into my head and then out of nowhere, and then it just kind of is.
Hey, that's an art form in and of itself. Like, to come
I wish
up
I can
with
get more
stuff
shit to
on
pop out of my head. So
I know, like, to come up with stuff like that on yeah, I mean, because I think they're all I've been using this a lot lately, this terminology of like of having characters that feel lived in, where it's like these are people who have had like full lives. Like sometimes when you're reading something, watching something, and you're introduced to a character, you're like it's almost like they didn't exist until this moment that you're seeing them, right? Yeah. But with these, you feel as though they have had an entire life of experiences and whatever, right? Or and have done terrible things, or have done very good things, or have loved and lost. And like that comes through really well in these characters, which is part of the reason I wanted to know if they were, very specifically based off of anything in particular, because they feel very lived in. They don't feel random.
I did just pull out of the ether where I may have gotten some inspiration from. Okay. And it's going to sound really crazy, but The Princess Bride has a trio of bad guys. One who is very like psychological, another who is very brute strength, and another who is, quick on their feet. Yep. And that, having a set of bad guys that test our characters' strengths in each of those different categories. In this case, it would be more, magic, and then, brute strength, and
I can see that.
Cunning. But, it's a way to show the different ways that our characters challenged. So
yeah. When did you start writing Dead Folk?
Well,
right after that podcast.
Pretty much. Yeah. I think it was June.
Dang.
Yeah.
June?
Like I don't
June
fuck around with this stuff. I knock it out and then knock it out. Like I love writing short stuff. And it's a lot easier for me to pay attention to narrative and characterization and world building in a short book than it is in a novel, as it turns out. I love writing novels, but I have a lot more fun being experimental in short stuff. So I started writing this in June and knocked it out in about a month.
Wow.
if that. And
And
then
you didn't have any of it planned ahead of time?
no.
I'm just gonna jump off a bridge now. You are what? You're
Sorry, I just saw Todd has
Todd.
joined us.
Gotcha.
Hello, Todd.
That's insane. I mean, I know we talked about, when you did Undead, that was kind of where that came, like where writing that even came from and kind of getting it ready for AuthorCon and stuff. But dang, June, you're aware that was only 2 months ago? That's crazy. That's crazy. And
you set like a page goal for yourself? like so I'm gonna sit down and be like, all right, 10 pages by,
Nope. I am a chaotic tornado of a human being, and to a point where I am probably unhealthy in my writing and publishing habits still, but it is at this point I'm just like, yeah, I have to finish up this series and I have to write this stuff, and I've set a due date for myself, I will make that due date no matter what. I write very well under pressure.
Amazing.
At least I hope. And
I mean, no, I think you do. Like, I think that's a fine thing to say. I'm just, because like when I think of like the amount of like, because you edit and format everything yourself, yes? Yeah, because you do that on the side for others as well. And so like I'm just trying to, I can't even, I have nothing, I don't even know what to say. Like, to do it all and the covers.
Yep.
And you just do everything from A to Z, right? And to just be able to do it in that short ass time frame. That's crazy. I'm super impressed. That's insane.
Like I said, I'm more impressed by the fact that I've been able to get away with doing it, and I haven't like lost my shit because of how much I've got going on while I'm trying to do this. But I'm also just like, I'm so incredibly grateful for the number of people who have championed this book and have given it the love that it gets, and who have some form of faith in it, because like I love writing grief horror. But every time I write something that is like that really sad, mushy stuff, it's really like personal, and and you don't know how people are going to take it. You don't know how people are going to respond to it. And I've put lots of stuff out there that has gotten little to no reception. You learn pretty early on that like some things just don't hit. No matter how much of your time and energy and love you put into them, some things just don't hit. And that's the saddest thing, I think, as a writer, is when you have something that you feel very passionate about just doesn't go anywhere. And I've had it happen a few times. And so when something does take off, there's a lot of questioning, like, what did I do? What have I done?
I can see that.
Like, this is deeply, deeply personal. Like some of it is deeply personal, and you're kind of like, will anybody connect the dots? Will like anybody see sort of past the words to what I'm putting in here? And and people have really had great reception to this. So I'm still just blown away by how much love this series has gotten.
Yeah.
It's really hard to believe, no matter how many times it's shown, I guess. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's been, and just as someone who is supporting your work even before, Undead came out, um it's been really cool as an outsider, as a friend, as somebody who does read and support your stuff, that to see that reception too, because we're in the same community, and so I've seen the reviews, I've seen the people posting, and I've seen people commenting when someone else posts because they're like, oh yeah, I love this too, or just that constant engagement about it, where people are very excited for an opportunity to share that common ground with someone, that yes, I read this and I loved it too. And here's all these my thoughts, right? And I love that. And it's so funny because I feel like this is like something that only happens in like the horror world, but when you talk about how awful something is in like the best way, people are like, yeah, this book like wrecked me and I loved it. Like, like you're reading these things about like about all these feelings and stuff. But it's been really cool as an outsider as well, seeing it be so well received. And even the sequel, I mean, obviously today's launch day, so people will be catching up. People got it on their Kindles now, and people are ordering paperbacks, and they're getting because I ordered mine through your website. I pre-ordered one, a physical. So, but I think that even like seeing the excitement today, like you said, like so many people were excited to share it and are excited to get their copy and excited to read it. And I love seeing that for you. I like I said, I know I've said before, but it's well deserved. I mean, these stories, the world that you have built in collectively 120 pages, maybe something like that, 130 pages, is insane to me. And then you're sitting here like, yeah, I just did it one day. Like, I don't know how you do it. That's crazy.
I love what you said. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it. You're good.
I love how you put it. I think a lot of like writers or can really connect with what you're saying, as you put so much of yourself into your work. Obviously depending on each story or what have you, but
Yeah.
and that's a real leap of faith, right, to put it all out there. And so what, kind of getting into the themes of the book, obviously not spoiling anything for the new one, but what do you hope that readers sort of connect with on an emotional level?
So this one is very focused on anger and retribution. And it's kind of like a simmer in the first book, but it's really like the heat is really on high in this one.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I don't know if there's anything really any lessons to really take away from it, other than the thought that I had today about it was that there have been moments in my life where I have, gotten to a point where my anger has felt very like I feel like I'm on fire, and I feel like no one can take me down in that anger. And I'm going to do what I need to do, and no one had better be in my way. And have also found that in those moments I am extremely vulnerable, though I don't realize it. And so I guess if anything, it's just a like self-reflection of how vulnerable you can be when you are super angry about something.
Yeah. And letting yourself feel that.
Yeah. It's so it's not about anything in particular. When I write these books, I inhabit my characters. I do the method acting of getting into my characters' heads and really feeling what they feel. And so when I wrote this, I was just really pissed off for Janet. I was just like,
Yeah.
I wanted her to get the retribution that she wanted. And then and that was the end goal. So and then at the very end realized that, sorry, there was a comment that just appeared and it's
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
confusing. Got to the end of the book and realized that this probably wasn't going to be the end of Janet and her story. So
Too big to be continued.
to be yes, a to be continued. Indeed.
I think it's a really interesting point to discuss anger in a sense of vulnerability, because I think anger at times, or a lot of times, is a defense mechanism. Like, I had anger issues for years that I had to work through on my own, and it was meant to be a defense mechanism. But you're right, you're in those moments of when it's that bad, when it reaches that level. It's one of those things where it's like you really are revealing a lot more than you mean to sometimes, because you are so angry. And I know, like, even though I was, like I'd said before, when I got to the end of Undead Folk, I was like, I was good with the ending. Like, I didn't feel disappointed or anything like that. But when I started Dead Folk, I was like, okay, maybe this is what I need. Where you're just like that, like, because I mean, quite obviously, I'm not in the same situation as Janet. I've not been in that situation in that way. But to imagine being in that circumstance and, like, I don't know if I have it in me to, like, be the better person and just, like, walk away from something like that. I don't think I have that in me. I think that my rage would consume me, and I would be doing whatever I could to get whatever I needed back, retribution, revenge, what have you. And so and then, like you had mentioned earlier about the differences between Janet and Undead and Dead, I loved that kind of shift over, and like you put it perfectly. You said it's like a simmer, in the first one, and then in the sequel, it's like super amped up. Like, it's the flames have been fanned and gasoline is tossed, and it's very it just ignites this whole other part of her that you already knew, I think, on some level as a reader was there, but it was really interesting and oddly satisfying to get to see her acknowledge that and kind of go on this new journey with those feelings intact.
Sophie says,
hey,
her favorite of the year.
Yay. Yeah. Oh, excited to when you read Dead Folk, so can't wait to see your thoughts. Anger gets you. It's definitely a super good motivator, that's for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely
Indeed.
a good motivator. Yeah, so I think one of the other, like, main thing, like, I think the other sorry, I'm taking care of something really fast and we're moving on. Okay. Sorry. Anyway, the other major thing that I wanted to kind of talk about, just in terms of kind of, I guess, the world is, when you get more of the world in Dead Folk, you got it, Todd.
I mean, don't be coming around here with that nonsense. Just gonna say.
No, Steve, we're making it, baby. That's what that means.
That's what happens. Hey, bring them on. I play in D&D. I can take down some trolls,
Oh man. Anyway, I think but yeah, so anyway, what I was going to say is so people who have read the what is the name of the hole for the Wild Fall? Is it
so it's
the name of the, what I'm trying to say, like
the series name is the Deadlands in this for Undead Folk and Dead Folk.
And Dead Folk. What is the name for Oblivion? Is it
the Wild Oblivion is the
series
name. Yeah.
So for people who have read those, because there's a bunch of those as
Yeah.
well, which is why I was laughing when you were like, yeah, I just can't commit to things, because like
Yeah.
you've gone, you are like, when you love your characters, it comes through because you keep writing them, and I love that. That's like not a knock at all. I think it's great because like I'm pretty sure I have all of them. I have the big books and the little books, and but I think for people who have read that version of this like post-apocalyptic style of world, right? And then going into this one, I don't think it's necessarily like a super easy thing to differentiate between the types of dystopian that can exist. And yet I think you did it perfectly with this. You've got the one way that you've told this other story. And even though it's sort of similar in a subgenre sense, it's completely different. And I loved the feeling of being able to go between your versions of dystopian and what that looks like in these different scenarios. And really, no question, they're really more just like I just wanted to commend you on that, or compliment you on that, because I think it's like really, really well done. Because I got to the part where we meet, and I won't, like, again, no spoilers, but I get to the part where we meet this character called Undertaker, and we get this just, I mean, that's really when you start getting the taste of the world, and you're just like, they do what? Like there's just these moments, and I loved it because you already didn't trust the world that Janet was in the first one, but then you get these tastes and these real, like, these reality checks in this one where you're just like, well, she made it this far. Like, I don't, like, and I really loved being able to dive into, like I said, a different kind of version of dystopian and getting more of those details in this one. And I don't know, like, obviously I don't know what you have planned to do dystopian wise in the future, but I hope you keep doing it because I think you do it very well. Oh, hi, Tara. No, hi. Always happy to see your name. I hope your week's going good and that you're doing okay. Yeah, I just really love that. And I don't know, like, I know I probably asked you this when we originally talked about Undead, but like, this kind, like, writing in this world, is it just of an interest? Is it something that just comes naturally when you're writing these characters, or like what is it that keeps kind of pulling you back into writing the world in these different ways like that?
So I really like writing about dystopian worlds in general.
Yeah.
And I like exploring the different aspects of them in ways that are wholly new for me every time I jump into a book. So right now, as it stands, I have the Deadlands and that very the lawless Western feel of that book. And then I am also currently in the middle of another book for Trueborn that has a very dystopian feel to it as well. And they are similar and extremely different at the same time. And I think the isolation of both of them is the thing that connects them. I like the idea of creating a world where there's just not a lot of people around.
Sounds good to me.
And the people that are around have lost some spark that really kept them going. And in the Deadlands, that really comes through as like people are struggling to survive, and those that can and have sort of taken control of the world to survive are just bored. And they don't know how to spend the rest of their time. So they're just kind of like drowning themselves in familiarity of what the world used to be. They're locked in their mansions, watching movies and drinking wine collections and like, ignoring the world as it is now in favor of remembering how it used to be, getting that nostalgic feeling. Haha.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Todd's average weekend.
And
In your mansion watching movies.
Yeah, in your McMansion, Todd. And that's so that I like that aspect of just like exploring what pushes people to their brink. You have these people who are who have it all and don't know what to do with it all, and then who have these other people who have nothing, and
Yep.
And that putting that dynamic together to see what happens when they collide.
Yeah.
And that's basically what I'm writing about as a whole right now.
Yeah.
Is just like seeing what makes I guess seeing what makes people what people will do to change things, what people will do to feel like they're useful or living again, I guess, is the whole thing. So
yeah. Well, and I was going to say, I feel like in Undead Folk, you touch on that sort of like that hierarchy of like what you were saying. You've got these people who are in this position, and then here's the breakdown of what that looks like. But I think because we're getting the kind of deeper pieces of the world in Dead Folk, you get more of that where you're understanding that even those break down a little bit differently than you might expect or would have thought, which I thought really adds to like, I mean, and it's kind of the same as like, not that this is a zombie book, obviously, but but it kind of reminds me of like why I like things that are in the zombie subgenre, because it's this very big breakdown of what humanity looks like in times of crisis. What are people going to become when there's nothing to make them do this or that, right? And I think you get the very ugly picture of that reality, even more so in Dead Folk. But overall, you get a very clear picture of like, this is what this would look like in this situation, because that's just unfortunately how people are. But there's so many layers within that too, because not everybody who's bad is like the same type of bad, which is interesting. And there's like, like it breaks down into a lot of different ways. Read the book, but it breaks down a lot of different ways. But it's such a great discussion point when you're talking about like dystopian worlds, and that's one of the reasons that they're so neat to like dive into, to watch, to read about, like, because they're always this kind of discussion of humanity and like the what ifs in these circumstances. And I loved the way that they were tackled specifically in these two books for sure.
Yeah, that actually reminded me of morality. I don't know why I didn't mention morality, but morality is really a huge component of the things that I like to write about, and the gray areas of morality. So it's definitely investigate that in Dead Folk, and we'll investigate it in the future as well. Because at this point, spoiler,
sounds great.
Yeah.
Undead Folk has an amazing sense of bleak melancholy. Yeah, well said, Soph.
Thank you.
Very well said. Yeah.
At this point, spoiler, not spoiler, we've sort of danced around it, but there is a third book that is coming in the Deadlands series, the trilogy, as it were, and that's where it ends. There will be no more, but that's where it it ends because it has to end at some point.
So you come up with a new idea during a podcast.
Then there's going to be.
I won't write anything else. I must
spin off a
stop.
prequel,
Yeah.
series.
That's what happened. That's what happened with the Wild Oblivion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different
Do that
character
again.
perspectives. Yes, very which is why I laughed earlier, Kat, when you said that you can't stay committed, because you're just like, I was only supposed to write a sequel. And then did you want to talk, I guess I don't know what you could really say if you wanted to give if whatever you might want to share about the third installment, give into the series.
Yeah.
Everybody in the indie horror book community is enablers. Not a single person is going to tell you not to do something. They're just going to be like, do the thing.
It's so true.
It's a problem.
But it's also good because if there hadn't been some form of enabling, I would not have written a sequel. So
yeah, do it.
Following suit.
Oh, Rob is yes. Rob is an enabler. He tags me and stuff all the time to try to get me to do stuff. He's definitely an enabler.
Well, I have a feeling we have to have another revisit to our, like, we did a 2-hour-long podcast about Never-Ending Story
and Return to Oz. That was a great episode, though. Those two pair so well together, though. That was a great conversation. I was just telling Rob yesterday or today, whenever it was, we were talking back and forth. I felt like after y'all talked about it on his show, it was like all of a sudden people were posting about Return to Oz, and nobody was talking about it. I'm like, y'all started some kind of resurgence of like Return to Oz love, which is not a complaint. Love it, but it's just really funny.
Yeah. It's a very random, but yeah, that was a wonderful conversation.
It was good. It was great to listen to. Yeah.
But yeah, all these people in the comments saying do it. It's already done. And yes,
do more.
It's no, there's not going to be 2 more. It's just the one, because if I keep going in this series, that's it, guys. Like, I can't, I have to write other stuff. I already got the next novel, like, trying to leap into my brain, and I can't work on it because I have 2 other things that I'm working on right now. So it's like,
yeah,
I'm like
so eager for Sorrow Eater to find like a place, because every time you post about it, I'm like,
yeah, I'm like dying.
I want it so bad. Anyway,
it is a delicious fever dream, Todd.
Yeah, you could tell that you guys had a great time talking about it. It was a great episode to listen to. Did you want to talk about the title of the next one? Did you want to leave that open for people?
Yeah,
whatever you want to talk about with that part.
Definitely, because some very committed and awesome people came out this evening. So you get, if you have not already read Dead Folk, it is at the end of Dead Folk, so you have to read Dead Folk. But the title for book 3 is called Nothing Land, which will make more sense once you've read Dead Folk.
Yeah.
And it is coming out in December of this year, just in time for Christmas.
That was the Hallmark voice. I love it.
Yeah.
Just in time for
Christmas. This wonderful
perfect
romantic
stocking
revenge.
stuffer.
And
some love.
Nothing Land is definitely inspired by some Never-Ending Story love.
Oh man.
But
yeah, like the Nothing, right? Oh.
Yep.
Oh, I'm so excited. That's not too far. That'll be here. Wait, it's gonna take you 3 days to write it, something like that. You'll be fine.
It'll take me longer than 3 days.
Okay,
like
4.
I've given myself
4 days.
enough time to work on it because I have so much other shit happening that needs more attention first.
Mhm.
But there will be a cover reveal coming within the next few weeks. Do we get a bog? No. There is no bog in Nothing Land, unfortunately.
Unfortunate for who? Elsie, I guess.
There's other good stuff though. So basically, Nothing Land is going to. There's nothing in. Oh my gosh, guys!
Exactly.
All right.
Duh.
There's stuff in Nothing Land. Okay, it's stuffing land, and it's gonna. The inspiration. We're gonna again do a tonal shift in Nothing Land, and it's gonna feel more like
Okay.
less like a Western,
Okay.
more like a crime novel, noir. I guess we're going noir.
Very cool.
For the third one. It's the best way I can put it.
Okay.
Because that's, we tonal shift we tone shift every book. So
Yeah.
it will be probably the longest of the three.
Okay.
So they get bigger and bigger as we go along. And we're going to see Janet, and we're going to see Amos, and we're going to see Hugh.
Okay.
And we're going to see Steele.
Daniel Craig.
And we're going to see Daniel Craig.
Specifically, he's modeling for the cover.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, if I could make that happen. I don't have connections for that, unfortunately.
Well, maybe one day.
I was gonna say I don't think Mr. Byrne has a connection to Daniel Craig, unfortunately.
I can't say that Daniel Craig's watching this, so.
Hey, Daniel Craig,
since it happened, we'll hashtag him. We'll add it to the description.
You're loving the noir vibes.
Yeah. No, that sounds cool. I'm excited. And I know you had a mysterious box that you posted about, and you talked very briefly about in the beginning. Did you want to kind of dive into that?
Yes. So for those of you who will be at Spooktastic Book Fair in Framingham, Massachusetts, or at Merrimack Valley Halloween Book Festival in Haverhill. Spooktastic is next weekend, Saturday, September 7th. And Merrimack is October 19th, Saturday. There will be limited edition hardcover.
Oh my God.
Undead Folk books. Which my camera wants to blur out.
Yeah, that's good.
A limited number available at each show. You should try to come if you can. There will also be bookmarks and stickers.
It's awesome. It's beautiful. Show it one more time so it doesn't.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Give it some love.
And at Spooktastic, and I don't think this is going to be at Merrimack, but at Spooktastic, there will also be Undead Folk t-shirts.
Oh, cool.
Very limited sizes. So
take Todd's money.
Yeah. I was going to say Todd and I have already spoken.
That's
We have an
awesome.
arrangement.
God, that looks so good.
So one is in Massachusetts. Are they both in Massachusetts?
They are both in Massachusetts. Yeah, one is in Framingham and one is in Haverhill.
Tom is going to be at Spooktastic, right?
Tom will be at Spooktastic.
Tom Reimer.
Yeah.
I thought so. I thought I'd seen a post about it, and then I was like, oh, maybe it's not. Because sometimes the horror stuff, kind of the names, they kind of get a little intertwined sometimes. So
Yeah.
that's super exciting.
Similar-esque.
Yeah, I was going to say Tom was there last year. We were right near each other.
Yep, because he lives up that way, not too far. That side of the world, I guess. Well, from side of the world, it's us, but you know what I mean. Yeah. Well, I have it's been super fun reading these. I mean, not really fun. Like I was quite angry through at least the second half of this one, and I was very sad through most of the first one, but you get what I mean. That's all compliments in the horror world.
Those are feelings you want us to feel, right?
Yes.
I'll take the anger. I'll take the sadness.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll probably do. I don't know if anybody else has signed up to do it yet, but if there's nobody else on the Scoop doing it, I'll be doing a review for the Scoop for Tasha to post probably in the next week or so that she can share it, maybe help promote it some more. And but anyway, yeah, I'm excited about the third one. This kind of noir thing has got me thinking. I'm like, brain is reeling with thoughts of what you could possibly do in that world or that setting. But yeah, well, congrats again on the book.
Thank you.
And the success of the first one. I'm so excited for you, and it's been really cool to see the success of it. Like, really has been, as an outsider, not the writer. But
I appreciate it. It's I'm still like, again, I'll say it, just like, no matter how many times anybody says it, and no matter how many times I see the numbers, I'm still,
yeah,
you still get that, like, who, me? Like my stuff?
Little
What?
old May.
What happened? What did I do?
Well, you deserve all the success. It's awesome.
Yeah.
We'll have to do a trilogy closing.
Yeah.
Closing, right? Because there could be more. No.
Yeah. No, there's not. That'll be the April Fool's joke.
There you go.
Be the, Undead Folk Tokyo Drift.
Don't knock it.
Steve's like,
So,
I'm also an enabler.
No, so here's the thing though. Last year at AuthorCon, I made a poster for the Wild Fall, but it was like I changed the name of it to Too Wild, Too Dark, and
perfect.
There's a car on the fake cover, and
that's funny,
and a wolf, and like I think maybe I got a snicker from one person at the convention.
No, I would have laughed.
Yes,
furious.
That's awesome.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
I'm trying to think of puns, but I'm not as
started a whole thing. Well, was there anything else you wanted to share about the book? Obviously it's out today. The link's multiple times in the chat and should be in the video somewhere.
That out. I don't think you can copy the link from that. So, but it's there.
I'm going to read it. T.co.
No. That's right. Go back and forth between your screens, try and type in your phone.
I started them.
But also, everybody watching is already following Kat on socials, and it's very easy to access it that way as well. So just saying.
Yep, you can follow me for all my silly emojis in all of my posts. I had a realization today that like I use a lot of emojis, and I hate emojis.
I've never even thought about that though. Are you sure?
And I'm just like, fox, heart, fox. Like sometimes it's just so easy to emoji
I
versus
love it though.
um,
But also, like, how often do you really get to just use a fox one? Like,
yeah, well,
so you're like,
it's a
you got to
weird
use
type
it
of
when the
fox.
opportunity presents itself. Like,
And don't feel
It's
so bad.
yes. So
If you the singer Cher when she was on Twitter, I don't think she's on it anymore. Her tweets were wilding with emojis and symbols, and so don't feel bad. As long as you're not Cher level, you're good.
like I limit my emojis to like 3. That's if there's any more than 3 in a row, then I feel, I don't know, cheap somehow. Like it's just but I
well,
don't like using them, and at the same time
they're so cute.
they are just so easy to express
They are.
love,
And
because I feel like
they've gotten so creative with some of them. Like, I love the smiling one with the tears. I use that one all the time. That just like
I feel like I use them when I should have an emotional response to things, and
yeah.
and I'm like, I don't know how to react.
Todd said, don't take my emojis. I need them to show people that I'm not a complete asshole online.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what I'm afraid of. Like,
Here. Oh, I like the crazy one.
there
I
we
use
go.
that one.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
So I'm just going to show you a quick example of a Cher tweet.
Oh my God, Steve.
I really just wanted to just so briefly. So she repeats emojis, so don't feel so bad. I'm so excited about my Santa Claus Christmas Tree album. Never wanted to do one, but it's as good as any record I've made. This is not your mother's Santa Claus Christmas Tree Santa album. Oh.
What?
That's how she tweets. It's wonderful. It's truly wonderful.
It's like it's
Oh,
wonderful.
God.
What?
But anyway, that's how she tweets.
Oh my God.
All
So
right.
as long as you don't just tweet like her, you're good.
Lemon Jelly. Sorry, my cat is howling off screen, like from the stairs.
Oh, you can't hear him.
Lemon Jelly, come here. No, that's it. Stop howling.
Oh. You just needed to be reminded of the presence of the cat. Don't forget.
I have not paid enough.
Listen, I wasn't really prepared. It's sort of like I was doing the impression like half in my head, half out. So that wasn't full share.
That's a terrible impression.
It is.
I
bad.
like the that you did.
Like, oh. Listen, I'm only 1 beer in. This is 1 beer, guys.
It can only be improved by adding some dance moves.
Yeah, Rob. Sure. Yes.
Little do you know, Rob, that's what Steve does on the weekends. He's a Cher impersonator.
I get my long black wig on.
Oh, well, thanks for coming on and sharing this with us. Obviously, we got early readers because we were going to talk about it on launch day, and like I said before, it's always so great to have you on and to chat with you. So thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me, and I really appreciate that you guys took time out of your nights to host me and have a cool release party for me
and celebrate with you.
Yeah, hang out, have some laughs. It's like I really appreciate it because again, when I think about the Undead Folk launch and how I was like on Instagram by myself, there's the cat.
Oh, Jelly.
I'm so ominous too, just blurred out in the background.
He's waiting to take my seat the minute that I stand up.
This was great. Congrats again. Yeah. Yeah. super excited and happy for you and proud of you. It's great. So, and glad that, we were able to hang out. I mean, it's honestly, it's just as meaningful to us as it is it means a lot to be able to share moments like this, especially with people that we, that we know and like actually, have like a relationship with. So it's been, it was really cool to be able to do this.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. If you're watching and you haven't ordered the book, I like, what are you doing? Click the links, copy, paste, go to Kat's page, do something, get the book. And if you haven't read either of them, I'm super confused. Like, fix it, because they're both like wild rides in different ways. Definitely
Super
different
bingeable.
ways. Yeah. Yeah. So, one more. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, I should have got like a cheering sound to add. I forget you can do that.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a whole switchboard of options.
Switchboard. Switchboard.
I mean, it's buttons.
Buttons.
You want to get one of those fancy switchboards for like sound mixing on the computer one day.
I was gonna.
Like a dream.
Hear it? Or does it just sound like static?
No. Yeah.
I can imagine the applause.
Yay, you did it. Oh.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I feel so special.
And thanks everybody in the chat for coming by and hanging out with us to celebrate Kat and her release. We appreciate you guys for chatting and keeping us company and celebrating with us. But yeah, anyway, well, I think that's all we have for this one. Make sure you're following Kat. Make sure you read the books. Buy the book. And if you're going to Spooktastic, or what's the other one called?
Merrimack Valley Halloween Book Festival. It's a lot of words.
It's a lot of words. You might get a special hardcover. Yeah.
Miralax?
I can think of you saying Miralax, like the laxative. And I was like,
oh, great. Sounds like a great book festival.
Oh my God. Jesus.
Oh.
All right. Well, thank you guys again for hanging out with us. Thanks again, Kat, for sharing this with us and letting us celebrate with you today. Yeah, that's all I have. So hope you guys have a good rest of your evening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Weekend's right around the corner, and we will see you in the next one.
Night.
Bye.